If you're a parent or share a fridge with someone, Instacart is about to make grocery shopping so much easier. Because with family carts, you can share a cart with your partner and each add the items you want. Since between the two of you, odds are you'll both remember everything you need. And this way, you'll never have to eat milkless cereal again. So minimize the stress of the weekly shop with family carts. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply. For 3 orders in 14 days, excludes restaurants.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 87 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Man, I'm doing good, man.
I'm doing good, man.
You always get me on that, don't you?
Well, am I tricking you into saying man twice in the same sentence?
Well, you're holding up the cue cards.
To say man and man.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, we ain't been here in a couple weeks.
I know. Where'd you go? I came. I showed up. I was ready.
You were ready to tape Unsolved?
Yeah.
So
I got in my new used chair and was sitting here waiting.
So you haven't been here for a while to talk about your chair. Even though you're sitting in a brand new chair for those of...
Brand new used chair.
For listeners that don't listen to True Crime all the time.
New used chair.
In our hiatus, the new chairs came in.
Yours, yes.
Fancy, elegant.
You rolled yours down to me, and you rolled the new one into your spot. I gotcha. At least I don't have wood anymore.
So the pictures are going out this weekend.
Yeah, they should.
I just want to let you know.
It's black fabric.
It is black fabric.
Yeah. It's what it was for the last year.
But a much nicer black fabric chair.
Anyway, it is comfy.
All right, Gibbs.
I like how it cradles my...
Well, be careful.
Backside.
Be careful where you're going with
my
that.
Backside.
Okay, your backside.
Yeah.
So we've been off for a couple weeks, but we're back.
We're back.
And ready to get going on a new Unsolved episode. But before we do,
all right,
let's give our Patreon shout outs.
Let's do it.
We had Kevin Anderson.
Hey, Kevin.
Aaron Edgecombe.
Ooh, Edgecombe.
Kelly Stewart.
Hey, Kelly.
Nicole Makeley.
I like that, Kelly.
Miriam Johannes.
Did I say Kelly?
You did.
Was that her name?
No.
Oh. You want me?
It was Nicole.
Why did I say Kelly?
I don't know. Kelly was before Nicole.
Yeah, it was a delayed reaction.
It was.
Nicole.
I'm not cutting it out.
I know you're not. And who'd you just say now?
Miriam Johannes.
Ooh, Miriam Mahamas?
Johannes.
Yo.
Johannes. Now you got me saying it wrong.
Johannes.
Katie Wallace.
Hey, Katie.
Sarah Masterson Holtgrave.
That's a mouthful.
That's a long name to write down.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Gnosis.
I like happy.
I don't know what that means, but
it's the only way to be.
It's upbeat. Makes me feel good.
You do that happy dance still? Remember you used to do that all the time?
When good things happen, yes.
You just like start singing and dancing around the studio. I'm like, what is going on?
That's my happy dance.
Yeah, okay.
Margaret Gentry.
Hey, Margaret.
Nancy Zeker.
Ooh, the Zeker.
Kim Wisenant.
Wisenant?
I've said it like 4 different ways.
Very wise aunt.
Something like that.
Wisenant.
With another N in there.
Why is she an aunt? Why is she an aunt?
Actually, it's close to that. Jennifer Autry has been a Patreon supporter. She jumped up to an unbelievable level, way above our highest posted level.
We call that the Fergie level.
It's Fergalicious.
I was just going with the Fergie level. If you want to tag it that way, you do what you want.
I'm going to put a new level in there and call it Fergalicious.
Okay. We're good with that.
Brian.
Just Brian?
Just Brian.
Hey, Life of Brian.
That's actually exactly what I was thinking of.
You? That's scary. You're thinking like me.
I love Monty Python.
That was a good skit, man.
Love him. Hillary Peel jumped out at her highest level.
She's just, she's real. She's a Peel. Get it?
Cinnabon Jobber. I did not get it.
Cinnabon. Like Cinnabon. You ever had those?
Oh, dude. Cinnabon's like crack.
It's like
I can't eat
cream
that stuff.
cheese icing on top, right? Or is that just icing? What is that?
I don't know, but I can't eat that stuff, man. It's too
rich?
It's too rich for me, but it's good.
Yeah. Is that because you start off licking as I hit the microphone? with my
Why do you
hand?
keep smacking the microphone?
I don't know. Trying my boxing skills out. So do you like lick the icing off first and then eat it, or you just like dive in?
No, I eat it like a normal person.
Okay. Fork and knife?
I'm not one of these people that cracks
Like
open my Oreos, licks out the center,
Well, why wouldn't you?
and then puts the two cookie pieces back together and eats them. I know a lot of people do that.
You probably cut your Snickers with a fork and knife. Like
I do
George.
not. I do not. All right, we had David Smith,
Hey, David.
Jennifer Quintal,
Quintal.
Walter Palacios,
Ooh, Placio.
Jen Waterman,
Hey, Jen.
Allison Moon, who's
Hey,
a
Allison.
big friend of the show,
Yeah.
CMO Raider,
Hey, CMO.
Angie Barnes,
Thank you, Angie.
and Ashley Christine.
Hey, Ashley and Christine.
As Gibby would said, thank you to both of you.
Thank you both.
If we go back into the vault, Gibbs,
Let's do it.
this week we selected Jessica V.
Hey, Jessica.
Been with us a long time. We appreciate that long time support.
We do.
We appreciate all of our new supporters, those of you that continue to support us month after month,
Yeah,
and now year after year.
it's awesome. I mean, seriously, it really is.
It really is. We had some PayPal support as well. We had Pamela
Hey,
Santos,
thanks, Pamela.
Michelle Mesmer,
Michelle, thank you.
Becky Berge,
Becky-
or Berg,
Becky
Berge. Actually made a sizable donation on PayPal, which is makes it all the worse that I'm
Making fun of her name.
butchering. I'm not making fun of it. I'm trying to come up with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Jessica Metz,
Hey, Jessica.
Sarah Richmond,
Thank you, Sarah.
Caitlin Doran,
Hey, Caitlin.
and Season Sullivan.
All right, Season. Don't
I
forget-
like the alliteration, and I like the name. It's very cool.
It's all very important.
At the same time this episode is out, we have a brand new True Crime All Time. It's on David Allen Westerfield.
Yeah,
We just got done with the 2-part Ed Kemper,
right.
which was a grind to put all of that together. And I loved it. It came out great.
Right.
I thought. This is a much different story. This is not the quintessential killer. It's not a serial killer. It's not a spree killer, mass murderer. This is the guy next door
Yeah.
that in his late 40s, almost 50 years old, makes the decision that he's going to murder someone on his block.
Right.
It's scary.
Yeah,
All right, Gibbs, you ready to get into this week's Unsolved?
I am.
What would I do if you said you weren't?
I'm not.
He throws his headset down and he storms out of the studio.
Like Eeyore. Well.
I think that's it's like something off Charlie Brown, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, maybe it is. Yeah. Maybe I'll be like Debbie Downer.
I like Debbie Downer. She cracks me up.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're talking about the unsolved murder of 14-year-old Carolyn Wasilewski.
That's a mouthful.
It's a tough name to say,
Yeah.
but this is an unsolved mystery that dates back to the 50s. So we're going on about 64 years
Yeah.
of this being unsolved. It's a very an old unsolved case.
It really is.
But let's start off talking about and giving some information on Carolyn. She was born as Carolyn Loretta Wasilewski,
Loretta Lynn, man. That's what makes me, first thing that came to my mind. Loretta.
coal miner's daughter.
Yeah.
You know that's one of my favorite movies.
I love that movie.
And she was born on June 12th, 1940 in Baltimore, Maryland. Her parents were Stanley and Mary Wasilewski, and she was the oldest of 7 children.
That's a big family.
It is. Very big family.
It's a lot of groceries.
Now, at 12 years old, Carolyn's mother sent her to a reform school called the House of the Good Shepherd.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever been? Did you go to reform school?
No, I did not.
Should you have went to reform school?
Maybe. Possibly.
Like a boarding school, I guess.
Like probably a military academy
That would have been really good.
to really get me in order.
Yeah. I had some friends that went to military academy schools.
You mean college or more high
Oh,
school?
High
Yeah.
school. They were really bad. They got in a lot of trouble.
Because
Their parents shipped them off.
I thought about going to one of the military academies for college, like
Yeah.
like the Air Force Academy.
Right.
But
Colorado Springs.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought about going there, but no, I was never in any danger of being sent to that type of reform school or, I wasn't that bad. Now,
So you did your stint in juvie
I did.
and got out,
Got scared straight.
got it, what do they call it, expunged?
Got my record expunged.
Yeah.
No, but, in all seriousness, I did some stuff. Was pretty good at hiding it.
Yeah,
And,
still are.
my friends and I, we did things just like I'm sure you did, where I think if it was today, we probably would have gotten serious trouble.
Oh, big time.
I think we got away with a lot of stuff back then that today, you look at today's environment with the school shootings and the bullying and all of that stuff. They take all of that very seriously. I remember, Gibbs, getting off the school bus, 4th, 5th grade.
Right.
It was a run for your life because there were kids 3-4 years older than me
Yeah.
getting off at the same stop. They were just waiting for somebody to pound on.
I know.
Do you know what would happen if in today's environment, that kid would be expelled immediately, probably. Yeah. But back then it was an everyday thing for me.
You'd have to get you a bodyguard.
Like in the movie My Bodyguard?
Yeah, exactly. Or was it, the other one was what, 3 o'clock high or?
I don't remember that. I remember My Bodyguard.
My Bodyguard, I remember for sure.
I remember that very well. But, I just remember riding the school bus with kids much older than me.
Oh, yeah.
That were very happy to kick the you-know-what out of me.
I got in a few fights after school.
Every day. I got in fights with kids my own age, but I could handle myself.
Oh, I got in fights with the older kids.
When you get 4 or 5 years older, there wasn't much I could do.
So I get in the fights with the older kids, but then, so the next day I would go ahead and redeem myself with, I'd wait for the elementary school.
To get your payback?
Yeah.
But
you had 2 of you.
Didn't you? I thought you had older brothers, though.
I had an older brother and a younger brother.
One older brother.
Yeah. Yeah, so not too many people mess with me, but a few that didn't like him would.
Yeah.
So that's all right, though. I handle myself.
But she did. Age 12, sent to this reform school. I thought the name was strange. House of the Good Shepherd.
Yeah, holy.
By the time Carolyn was 14 years old, she was known to her friends as Peaches.
Peaches.
That was her nickname.
What was your nickname again?
Ferg.
It was?
Not quite as creative as Peaches.
No. I thought it was going to be something a little different.
No, I just went by Ferg.
Yeah. All right. Kind of busted that bubble.
Yeah.
I was looking for something like...
You thought that was going to lead somewhere.
Yeah.
14 years old. She was in the 9th grade at Southern High School. She was Polish, and she went by the last name of Wells for short.
That's, Zelensky.
Well, maybe it was because her last name was hard for some people to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's all right.
But she was popular.
Peach. Hey, Peaches Wells.
Peaches Wells. She was a popular girl. She liked to dance. Yeah. She had a ton of friends.
Just like you did.
But she had a reputation.
So did you.
I had both.
Yeah.
She was known to run with, I guess what you would call, Gibbs, an edgy crowd. It was almost like a gang.
Back in the 50s, probably was. Probably like
a doo-wop gang.
Ooh. Like the greasers, the outsiders.
I was going to say, think outsiders. But this group, I guess you would probably call it a gang. It was called the Drapes.
The Drapes.
Which seems like a strange name for a gang.
They're in their house, and they're like, what's their name going to be? And they're sitting on the couches going, I don't know. How about the carpets? And somebody's like, no, that's stupid. And then one kid says, I don't know, how about those drapes over there? They're like, yeah, the drapes sounds great. No? You don't think that's how it happened?
It could be.
I'm just wondering. Drapes? Why the drapes?
Just spitballing.
Yeah.
But people in town knew them as juvenile delinquents.
Just bad kids, huh?
Yeah, I think that's the way they were viewed. The boys were known, Gibbs. In a lot of the articles, the word they used was rockabilly.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Elvis.
Elvis.
Because they also talked about the fact that these kids wore clothing that the town found scandalous.
So like some tight blue jeans?
Yeah, I am thinking kind of outsiders.
Yeah.
Greasers
white
versus
t-shirts.
The clean-cut kids.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
These type of teen gangs back then, as the Drapes were, they were known to commit petty crimes. They stole cars. I don't know if that's a petty crime, but
I think back then it was probably petty.
maybe
Today,
back then.
today's not petty. That's grand theft.
Grand theft auto,
as we know by the game that you play.
Yeah. They held hot rod races.
Oh, my dad used to do that all the time.
Side streets. Yeah, I think that was pretty big.
Yeah, and he was in the 50s,
back in the day. And they all had a bunch of nicknames, right? Some of the members of the gang were Lefty, Rocky, Ace.
What would your nickname would have been? Don't say Ferg.
Fergie. I always liked the real big guy they call Tiny.
Yeah.
But I don't know what mine would have been.
Little Mikey, but he's not little. He's
Little
like
Mikey.
Huge. Yeah.
But getting back to Peaches, this is not the kind of thing that a respectable teenage girl should have been involved in back in those days, right? This was viewed as going down the wrong path, hanging out with kids from the wrong side of the tracks, whatever cliche you want to use. But Carolyn was feisty.
Yeah.
She was blonde. She was described as beautiful and kind of like a badass.
And she really did. You know how some girls can look older than they really are, or they can make themselves look older. I mean, I've had my daughter, sometimes I'm like, who are you?
Yeah, I've seen that when my 17-year-old does all of her makeup.
Right.
She looks older than what she really is.
Yeah. Well, so this was, in this case, Carolyn, she could really look a whole lot older. And if you look at some of the pictures that they have of her, I mean, you could push her up into the upper 20s for sure.
Well,
and she's 14.
And there were people that said she looked twice her age.
Yeah.
So for to your point, from 14 to upper 20s.
Yeah. I mean,
I even saw 30.
Yeah. There were some people that debated if that was really her real age because the way she looked. And of course, she was just one of those people that could look older.
But one thing about her, she was always looking for excitement. And to that point, Gibbs, at the time, she was dating a 20-year-old who was serving time for grand larceny, breaking and entering.
So, a bad boy.
Yeah.
Girls are attracted to bad boys.
Because there's some excitement there, and that's what she was looking for.
Well, Seinfeld did a whole episode about it. Remember George?
When he became the bad boy.
Yeah, he got the girl, and he liked it.
Yeah.
Until he got caught shooting a movie in the theater and started crying like not a bad boy.
Now, we talked about she was the oldest of 7 kids. Her dad, Stanley, was a guard at the Maryland Dry Docks Company.
So a hardworking guy, busy family, bringing home 7. I mean,
he's got
7 kids.
He's got to be to provide for that many mouths.
And if she's the oldest at 14, I mean, you got to assume that probably the youngest is 2? Somewhere around there?
You can do the math and figure out that they came pretty regularly.
Pretty regular, yeah.
Now, on November 8th, 1954, Carolyn left home that night and was hanging out with the Drapes at 6:15 p.m. That sounds so funny to say. Hanging out with the Drapes.
Hanging out with the Drapes.
It's a strange name for a gang. I'm going to put it on record.
You're going to be hanging out with your Drapes later when you're upstairs in your great room.
Because they're connected to my couch.
Yeah.
Where I like to hang out.
Exactly.
But before going out, she told her family she was going to meet a girlfriend. This was 16-year-old Peggy LaManna. And the two of them were going to register for a new teenage dance club being formed at Morrell Park Elementary. And after they signed up, there was going to be a big dance. A sock hop they were going to attend.
I guess. Maybe not. Maybe it's just going to be some Elvis. Thank you very much.
I still think that was a sock hop, wasn't it, back in the day?
Maybe they're going to do some Dirty Dancing, like the movie Dirty Dancing,
I think this was pre-Dirty Dancing.
You think? I don't know.
I don't remember when Dirty Dancing was said, but I'm not sure they were doing too much of that dancing.
You don't think
then.
so?
I don't know.
Probably not.
We'll leave it alone.
Or just let you make up your own mind.
So Carolyn was wearing a tight pink top, a black skirt with pink and blue arrows, and a black denim jacket. She was pretty dressed up.
Yeah, for a school night.
For a Monday night trip to school. But it was going to be a dance. Her bleached blonde hair was up in curlers and covered in a bright green scarf. And she also had a very trendy black scarf tied around her neck.
She probably had the curlers in, getting ready for the night on the town, figured she'd hang out with the crew, and then before she went to the sock hop, she popped the curlers out.
And that's why she had it covered with a scarf. Because I thought that was strange in the research that she would go out with her curlers still in.
Yeah, I've seen old ladies at the store like that.
Are you really going to go there with the old lady bit?
Yeah. I did. I'm just saying, nothing wrong with it. But I mean, they're like, hey, I got to leave these hot set in for a little bit, so it takes.
But this is a young girl who, and I don't care what time period you're in, is worried about the way she looks. I'm certain when she's going out. Now,
maybe she had an older soul.
If the scarf is covering that up, I get it.
Yeah.
She's going to take the scarf off, take the curlers out for the night, maybe.
Yeah.
I just thought it was strange. I've never heard of that. Maybe it's commonplace.
Well, a lot of people wear scarves. You wear scarves?
I do not.
You wear the scarf around your neck?
Never.
Okay.
That is a cravat.
Then what do you call that thing around your neck?
A cravat.
Okay. I don't know what a cravat is.
I know you didn't. That's why I said it.
It's a manly scarf, I'm hoping.
But the problem here is, Gibbs, Carolyn never showed up.
No, she didn't.
She failed to turn up at Peggy's trailer park home.
Yeah.
On nearby Washington Boulevard. And she never showed up at the school to register for the dance either. After leaving her home on Mardell Avenue and running into some of the members of the Drapes, Carolyn vanished.
Poof.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Now, when Carolyn didn't return home that evening, her parents were worried.
Understandably.
And especially because at some point they had to find out she never made it to her friend Peggy's house. Now, we mentioned she ran with a pretty fast crowd. But even so, it wasn't like her to stay out so late on a school night.
No, she was still responsible, I mean, I think her parents, knew that, she was a good student, and she
just hung out with some questionable kids, but
racy crowd.
Racy. Questionable is probably, I don't even know if that's the right word, but she would still come home, right? She did her school, like you said, she was a good student, but they were concerned. And so they went out searching for Carolyn, searched the streets looking for their daughter. They couldn't find her anywhere.
No, they were out all night trying to find her.
And it would be 7 a.m. the next morning.
That's pure torture, by the way. It would have to be pure torture when you expected your child home at, say, midnight. And
7 hours later,
long, nothing.
And they never went to bed.
No.
No
way.
They were out searching for her. And even if they did come home, they didn't go to bed.
Nope. They were staring at that phone, staring at the front door.
Waiting for her to come home.
Yep.
But Gibbs, she's not going to come home because 7 a.m. the next morning, an engineer on an express train bound from Harrisburg to Baltimore spotted something odd on the tracks near the Belvedere Bridge. And this engineer thought it looked like a body. So the engineer stopped the train, and tragically, it turns out to be a body. It's the partially nude, bruised, scratched body of Carolyn Wasilewski. Her shoes and skirt were missing, and written on her right thigh in lipstick was a name, Paul. Carolyn was found face down on the railroad tracks. Her skull and jaw had been beaten. Not only that, but her ring finger was broken. But she wasn't killed on the train track. She was killed somewhere else before being taken to this spot. Someone carried her down a 30-foot ravine and laid her body on the train tracks.
Yeah, or threw her off the bridge, and that's how she fell and ended up laying.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Whoever dumped Carolyn's body was hoping that a train would come along and rip her body apart, destroying any evidence. To that point, Gibbs, if the express engineer didn't see her when he did, the 717 commuter train would have come along and run over her.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a spread of 17 minutes. He saw her at 7. The commuter train would have came by at 7:17. Man, that's close.
The area where she was found is now known as the Jones Falls Valley.
Yeah, I think that if you live in that, if you're familiar with the Baltimore area, it probably helps you kind of, think about where this is located.
I am not. So you're
Neither am I.
you're speaking directly to the people that are familiar with the Baltimore area.
That's a big population.
Out of all the people that listen to this podcast,
it's a big population.
In hundreds of countries around the world. I'm just messing.
Right now, there's at least a few hundred people Googling this location.
Jones Falls Valley.
Yeah. Maybe 1 million. Type it in. 2 million.
Now, one thing we have to talk about. Carolyn Wasilewski was not the only person murdered in and around this area whose case is still unsolved. Tony Messina was last seen on June 18th, 1952 in the afternoon getting gas. He was found 5 days later in the trunk of a green sedan near this same site. He was shot 4 times in the back of the head. Now, investigators felt this was more of a mafia-type hit.
Mafiosa.
And then you have Emma Kefalis. She was murdered on August 8th, 1949. So we're going back even a little bit farther.
Yep.
And this shows you the time that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The news article about her death called her plump, pleasant, and prosperous.
You wouldn't do that today. I
No,
don't think.
that is not a description that you would give, especially of a woman that was murdered.
Yeah, I don't think you call her plump. You wouldn't call her puffy. You wouldn't call her anything like that.
None of those. Now, Emma was 60 years old. She was found in her second floor apartment, which was close to the site where Tony and Carolyn were found. Emma was found face down, bound at the wrists and ankles with clothesline. She had been brutally beaten and strangled with an electrical cord from a waffle maker.
That's serious there, man. A waffle maker cord back in the day?
Well, just cords in general.
Yeah.
Back then. Now, they know she had 4 visitors before her death, 2 women, and then a man and a woman. These were the last people to see her alive. Just weeks before her death, Emma received a call from a man saying, "You know who I am, and I will get you."
Isn't that freaky?
That's scary.
That's freaky.
Now, after Emma's murder, police are at her apartment. They answered her phone a couple of times. Both times it turned out to be women. And when the police asked for names and numbers, the information these women gave turned out to be false. Police could not solve the murder, but they thought it could be a robbery that went bad.
And the weird thing was I was researching this, got off a little sidetrack with her, and found out that she made up potions, and she sold potions.
Like tonics and potions?
Like love potions, voodoo potions, different type of potions that do different things. And so it was, some of the thoughts were, did she sell some potions to somebody making some promises and it didn't go the way they thought, and they took, offense to it and came back and got even?
Well, the potion's not approved by the FDA.
Exactly.
So this potion...
grows hair.
I'm in. Can I get one of those, please?
It's like they probably had like a potion, like instead of the blue pill today, it was probably just like,
take this potion
and
all your problems will be solved.
We call it Casanova.
But let's get back to Carolyn.
Yeah.
Right? I know we got sidetracked a little bit, but I think those are important. Are they related? Are they not related?
Either way, it always shows me that no matter what unsolved case we look at, if it's a heavily populated area, Baltimore would be, or if it's some small town, which we've done, we always find terrible crimes happening in that area, multiple ones.
Yeah, and we're not talking the Baltimore area. We're talking a very specific place where Carolyn's body was found.
Yeah, we're talking about a very, you don't call them boroughs, villages, whatever. I mean, it's a small part of that block. Maybe you call it a block.
All right, so back to Carolyn. On the day her body was found, when the train made the hard stop, a journalist by the name of Bill Stump was a passenger on that train. And he would say, the train slowed down. No one knew what the hell was going on. We were diverted to another track. And as we passed, we saw people milling around and Wasilewski's body covered by canvas. I didn't find out what happened until we got off the train at Calvert Station.
Well, I bet there was a lot of activity. I mean, could you imagine?
An autopsy was completed on Carolyn, and it revealed that she died from a skull fracture. Even though she was found with her skirt and shoes missing, and the name Paul written on her thigh in red lipstick, the medical examiner said it appeared there was no evidence of a sexual attack. He would state she died around 11 p.m. that evening, which was just about a half hour after a train had passed by. They also confirmed she didn't die at the train tracks. Like we said, someone carried her to the tracks and laid her face down. Or like you said, Gibbs, threw her off the bridge and she landed on the tracks face down. But I think they lean towards the fact that she was carried or dragged. And my assumption there is that's a big difference in the ultimate wounds. If you're thrown off of a bridge, I don't know how high up this bridge was. It seems to me that they would be able to tell based on the type of wounds. But it wouldn't take authorities long to figure out where Carolyn was actually killed. Several of her personal items were found in a parking lot near her home, about 8 miles away from the Belvedere Bridge site where her body was found. And her personal items and missing clothes were all heavily bloodstained. Just a few days after her body was found, they had a viewing for Carolyn at the funeral home. But because of all the newspaper coverage that her death received in and around the area, there was a lot of coverage of this case. And because of that, there were a lot of, I guess you'd call them nosy onlookers that showed up to this viewing.
Yeah.
It was more than just friends and family. You just had people there to see this girl.
Right.
That they didn't even know.
Yeah.
They wanted to see what the papers were calling the draped girl, who looked 30, but was really only 14. This was all in the papers. And it created a stir, and it created a desire for people to go see Carolyn at the funeral home.
Right. And a lot of her girlfriends from the Drapes gang or whatever you want to call it, they showed up to the viewing, and, they just worked their way right up to the front. They wanted to see their friend. Normally when you do a viewing, you normally have that receiving line kind of a setup where you come in, you go down, you shake the hands of the
family,
give the condolences and all that. Then you go up to the casket. Oh, these girls, they just came in and stormed right up to the front. They wanted to see their girl, their friend. And it was noted, in the paper that happened, that occurred. And one of the weird things on the outside that happened was there was a lot of teenage boys that didn't know her, but knew of some of the things I heard about the case and knew that she looked older than her age, that they were screaming out loud that they just wanted to come in and see the body, which was offensive, clearly. So they were outside the funeral home screaming these obscenities, and eventually the police chased them away. But, again, some people would call them, hoodlums or just rude kids, whatever you want to call them. It's just not something you do at a viewing, but
Did you just call them hoodlums?
Hoodlums.
Is that like a hoodlum?
It's the same thing.
Hoodlum.
In Baltimore, they say hoodlums.
That is so strange. People coming just to see, well, maybe it isn't. Maybe it happens, and maybe I'm not aware of it. Yeah. I could see a celebrity.
Yeah.
Where you're not going to get in, but I could see the desire to go see a celebrity.
There'd be a big line for you.
But just somebody that you've read about in the paper wanting to go see that person's body.
Yeah.
That seems strange to me.
It's a little weird, a little bizarre.
And the local paper reported the burial dress of the blonde high school student was a flowing blue negligee, which completely covered evidence of the brutal treatment which resulted in her death.
I guess back then a negligee was something normal, not like it would be today, more racy today, I think.
Well, I think it's still normal today, but it's not something that we think of a person being buried in.
Yeah.
We think of it more as something that you wear in the bedroom.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking. Or you wear to bed, maybe.
You?
Yeah, me personally.
Okay.
That's what I wear.
I know you like the way silk feels against your skin. You
I
tell
do.
me that all the time.
But the paper actually reported it exactly this way.
They did.
They used the word negligee.
They absolutely did.
They also said a simple carnation corsage rested on her left shoulder over a sheer lace jacket.
Yeah.
And a cameo pendant hung at her neck. In her hands, a shiny rosary reflected the gentle gleam of flickering candles.
Sounds peaceful.
It does.
Yeah.
The next day, her service was held at St. Peter's Apostle Roman Catholic Church. And afterwards, her white coffin was taken to a grave at Holy Redeemer Cemetery. And another thing that I found somewhat strange, I don't know how strange it is, Gibbs, what you think about it, but the paper talked about the fact that her girlfriends were the pallbearers.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's if the girl was on a softball team, baseball team, basketball, whatever, I'm sure all her friends would want to take part in that, so I'm guessing her.
I've never been at a funeral where you had women pallbearers. I've just never seen it.
I think it's different, probably like if you go to a lot of the, older people, that's passed on, adults, things like that. You probably don't see that a lot. But I think maybe with a kid that you might see that because that's who they hang out with, and
yeah, and unfortunately, I've been to a number of funerals for younger people and younger girls, especially. But I've never seen where it was an all-female pallbearer. So I found that interesting that was the case. Her mother was seen sprinkling holy water on the casket, and then she collapsed.
Yeah. Yeah, they said in an article it took a while to revive her, get her back up, and then for her to. I mean, it had to be hard.
Oh, I'm sure she was completely distraught.
Yeah, I could not imagine having to go through that.
Carolyn was buried next to her grandfather.
I think that gave the family some peace,
some solace,
yeah.
Probably. Now, after the funeral, police looked for some type of lead because at that point they didn't have any. They didn't have anything.
No, all they had was somebody in lipstick wrote Paul on her thigh. But who was Paul and why was the name Paul on her thigh? And that was something they just could not find out.
But to try to find out, they brought in as many people for questioning as they could. They brought in a lot of Carolyn's drape friends. We're calling it that, but friends that she hung out with in her quasi gang. They brought in more than 300 people.
That's a lot of people
to interview. One witness said that they had seen a two-tone car driving around where Carolyn was hanging out earlier. And when it was approached by some members of the Drapes, it spun away. The police initiated a large manhunt. And eventually they ended up with two leads. They looked at a guy who was accused of raping a female member of the Drapes. And this was a guy that Carolyn testified against in court. So that would make sense that they would want to look at this individual as possibly having a grudge against Carolyn for testifying against him. But he had a solid alibi for the time of her murder. Then they interviewed a man by the name of Ralph Garrett. He was 45 years old. He lived near the murder scene and had been seen talking to Carolyn many times. And back to your point, Gibbs, he also owned a two-tone car. After Ralph Garrett was interviewed by police, he didn't return home to his wife. And police took it a step further. They made a formal announcement that he was a suspect in Carolyn's death. And it was just a couple of days later that Ralph Garrett was found dead, hanging by his belt off of the brake wheel of a gondola that was sitting in the rail yard and just happened to be right across from the parking lot where Carolyn was murdered.
Seems suspicious.
It does. It seems very suspicious to hang yourself after being questioned by police about a murder, being formally announced as a suspect in that murder. But police dug into the suicide a little bit more, and they found out that Richard's mother had recently passed away. This was something that his wife confirmed. So then they had to look at that as a possibility for him taking his life. Gibbs, we have to talk a little bit about John Waters, cult film director, Baltimore native, a famous director. He made several movies that are kind of cult classics, I think you would call them.
Yeah.
He was 8 years old when Carolyn was murdered. And apparently this case intrigued him as a young boy.
It really did.
And I think in part because of this, John Waters became obsessed with the Drapes and that whole subculture that, surrounded that type of gang. Grew up fascinated by the outsiders he saw around him in Baltimore, but he never forgot Carolyn Wasilewski. In 1990, he released his film Crybaby, which is one of those cult classics, starred Johnny Depp as the leader of a delinquent gang called the Drapes.
There you go.
Now, the film is a comedy musical, but even so, Waters has gone on record as saying that the Carolyn Wasilewski case was one of the inspirations behind the movie.
Yeah. And like you said, because we knew how fascinated he was at a young age with it, so it stuck with him.
I was stuck with him for a very long time. Donald Warden, a retired homicide detective who now works as a consultant, helping on old, hard-to-solve cold cases, says that interest in the Carolyn Wasilewski case surfaces from time to time. He's quoted as saying, "We still get calls about it, generally around the anniversary of the murder, but it's more than 60 years, Gibbs, that have passed since Carolyn's brutal murder, but the case still remains open."
Yeah. Still out there unsolved, just like those other two ones that we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, the 1949 one and the 1952 murders, Emma and Tony. I looked up those, and those are still unsolved as well. So maybe one day somebody will figure this out, all this DNA stuff going on.
Well, it brings me to that. Morph and I are doing this series on criminology about cases solved in 2018 where they had DNA. Now, we don't know if they had DNA in these cases. Obviously, they didn't even know what the heck DNA was back then. So the chances of them keeping something that resulted in DNA, probably pretty slim. But you never know. We don't know what they have in their cold case file. But these cases that we're talking about on criminology are ones where they've had DNA for years, right? But now it's where they're using genetic genealogy to take the DNA that they have, which obviously they've never been able to match to someone, right? The offender's not in CODIS, they're not in any system, but they're using this genetic genealogy, much like they did in the Golden State Killer case,
right,
to get down to through the family tree to narrow it down to the killer's family.
Right.
And then from there, that's when good old fashioned police work kicks in. They start interviewing people and they just keep narrowing it down until they figure out who it is.
And then
it's
boom.
Fascinating.
Yeah. You've done a whole thing on this, haven't you?
Yeah, this is what the whole season 5 of criminology is about.
Right.
Just different cases solved using this method. And I think we're going to see more and more of them.
I think so. I think you're right. But to the point, there's some attorney groups that are going out there challenging if you should even be able to get access to those DNA sites to protect people's rights.
I have had conversations with a lot of people about this because I think a lot of people are under the misconception that they're going out to Ancestry.com, 23andMe.
Right.
But that's not the case right now. There are people fighting to make sure that doesn't happen. All the cases that we're talking about in 2018, they were solved because somebody voluntarily put their DNA profile into something called GEDmatch,
Okay.
which is like a public, like you voluntarily have to put your stuff in there with the knowledge that anybody can, not just law enforcement, anybody that's looking for like to help with their genealogy.
Oh, so if someone's trying to find my lost parent.
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha. They can do that.
Yeah. But you're right. There is concern over the privacy aspects. They don't want law enforcement to be able to go into these private companies that people have submitted their DNA to. But as far as I know, that's not happening. Police want to be able to do that, but I think these companies are saying, no, that would be a violation of our customers' rights. At least the stories that Morph and I are doing on criminology, they're all based on this public database that people knowingly put their information into. But that's it. That is the case of Carolyn Wasilewski.
Yeah.
It's interesting on a couple of different levels, Gibbs. I mean, number one, obviously we're going back in time. We're going back to one of my favorite decades, which is the 50s.
The 50s.
And to hear about, her being in this gang and, what was going on back during that time, I think it's interesting.
Oh, I do.
And you just have to wonder who would have wanted to kill this 14-year-old girl. But I don't know. Outside of some miraculous DNA, I think this is a tough one to solve.
Yeah.
A lot of time has gone by.
You can still hope for the best.
Yeah. No, we always hope that one of these is going to get solved. All of them will get solved. We got some voicemails. You want to do those?
Let's do those.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Katie from Utah. I listen to you guys all the time, and I'm very excited about that. I wanted to suggest it's kind of unsolved. It's the murder of Kipling Davis. There have been 5 men who have been put in prison ultimately for perjury, one for manslaughter, but his deal was that he didn't have to say who actually killed her and where her body is. It's been 23 years, and they've never found her body or determined who actually killed her. It's a really interesting case, and I would be definitely willing to do some research or send you information. It's in my hometown of Spanish Fork, Utah. You've probably heard of it. But actually, I know 2 of the people who went to prison and, or not know exactly, but had interactions with them at some point. Thank you, and keep your own time ticking.
All right, Gibbs, that's a case that we will need to look into.
Probably look at it before the end of this year, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Again, it all depends, and that's the trouble that we have with some of these unsolved. We get into them. It really depends on how much information is out there. Some of the ones that we think, they're very interesting stories, but there's just not that much out there, not enough to fill an episode.
Yeah.
But again, that's where we've talked about maybe doing a couple.
Yeah, doing a multi-case episode.
Yeah, we did that on True Crime All the Time, and I think it was successful with the 2 Mindhunter killers that we did. So, and we can do that on Unsolved too, and get into some cases that they're fascinating. There's maybe 30 minutes worth.
Right.
There's not an hour.
Yeah.
But we'll put 2 together, and then we'll have a full episode.
Hey guys, it's Chanel over in Cape Coral, Florida. I just wanted to check in and then say hi and how much I really do enjoy listening to you guys. I sometimes work in Sarasota, which is about an hour north of me, and I listen to you guys all the time on my drives there. I listen to you guys in the gym. You guys are just fantastic, and I actually did meet up with you guys briefly at CrimeCon this year. I look forward to possibly going next year and hopefully seeing you again. I did want to mention, I don't think I've seen you guys cover the Jessica Chambers case. I know that's pretty big in the news now, especially with the whole Oxygen series out. I guess I just would love to know your opinions on that, and maybe at some point in time you guys will cover the case. Other than that, keep up the good work, and thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. And Jessica Chambers, that's one we have on the list. And I know that's one we will do.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Appreciate your phone call. I'm glad we did meet up with you.
Yeah. And if you didn't get a chance to join our roundtable discussion, if you're coming to New Orleans, do that. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Spending, what was it, an hour or two, however long it was, Gibbs.
Yeah.
With 25, 30 people.
400
people. It was just a great time.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time.
Hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Trish. I'm from Missouri. Just wanted to call and let you guys know you guys do a great job. I listen to your podcast all the time. Been listening to it for quite some time now. I just got done listening to the Ed Kemper podcast and been looking forward to it for quite some time. Look forward to hearing more about him, and just wanted to say thank you for everything you do. And all right, bye.
All right. Thanks, Trish. Hopefully she listens to Unsolved, too, because she was referencing Ed Kemper, but I'm playing the voicemail on Unsolved.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. This is Jasmine from Arizona. I just want to say that I love your podcast. I never listened to podcasts, and then when I went on iTunes, I found you guys. I'm totally into crime and stuff. I just finished the Ed Kemper part 1. I do gotta say that it was amazing. I watched Mindhunters, that where he's on and stuff, and it's to the T, and I really enjoy how you guys narrate it, and I guess really tell the story of him, because he plays it exactly how he sounds in real life on the TV show. So it's really entertaining, especially when I'm at work just entering data. But just keep it up. I really enjoy your podcast. I tell everybody about it. So but thanks, and keep your own time ticking.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jasmine. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that is. And we always love it when we hear people say, I tell my friends about it. Now, again, she's referencing T-Cat, so I hope she listens to Unsolved too, or she's not going to hear her voicemail. But
tell her, everybody. Let her know to come on over to T-Cat Unsolved to hear it.
But the Ed Kemper, we're getting, a lot of people wanted to hear it, a lot of responses about it.
Yeah, it was good.
And a lot of, about Mindhunter. I can't say enough about that show. I love that show.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that I wanted to do something special about Kemper. I mean, he's been on the list since we started the podcast, but it was really Mindhunter that got me into, we've got to do him.
Yeah.
Because, and like she said, the guy that played him was so good.
Yeah.
And, you hear the clips that we play of Kemper, and you go back and you think about the actor playing Kemper.
Yeah.
He was so good. It was like you're hearing the same person.
He should have got an Academy Award.
Maybe he will. I don't know.
Like me and my Italian, my Irish.
They give Academy Awards out now for accents, for bad accents,
for
the worst accent. Michael Gibson.
I'll take any award.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. This is Jasmine from Arizona.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. This is Katie from Mid-Missouri. I just wanted to call and say how much I appreciate and enjoy y'all's podcast. I drive anywhere between 2 and 3 hours a day for work. I do physical therapy with elderly patients, and I have to travel a lot between buildings. And your podcast helps pass the time and fill those gaps with all of the traveling I have to do. I also wanted to give a little input. I kind of got a kick out of whenever you were trying to get Gibby to say raise up lights or rise up lights, razor blades as an Australian accent. I also saw something a while back that's saying khakis is like a Boston person looking for their car keys. So thought you might get a kick out of that. But I just wanted to say, keep it up. I started listening to you guys a couple months ago, and I've gone all the way through T-Cat, and I'm about halfway through Unsolved. So I look forward to the new episodes every week. And stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
All right. Well, eventually she's going to get to the
voicemail. It's like, oh, there's my voicemail. So,
but it sounds like she's running through them at an incredible rate, Gibbs.
Rise up lights.
So I don't think it'll be very long till she gets to it.
Yeah.
I mean, driving 2 or 3 hours a day, that's
but listening to us,
that's a lot of driving around.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how's it going? Just wanted to call and congratulate you on episode 100. You're doing a great job. I really look forward to the next 100. Just keep it up, you're doing awesome. Gibby, I gotta say, Ghostbusters cracked me up more than it should have. Anyways, to answer your question about Denny's, if you go to any Flying J or Pilot truck stop in America, I believe, you will probably find a Denny's inside of it. And they are not cheap anymore either, by the way. It's a $20 bill for me to go in there and eat, it seems like. Anyways, guys, you know what? Once again, congratulations, and keep it up. I look forward to them. And Gibby, get your damn chair. Keep your own time ticking, guys. We'll catch you later.
All right. It's our favorite truck driver. Now, I will say this. I stopped at 3 Pilots this week because I was traveling for work.
Yeah.
No Denny's. So
maybe
I don't know if that's a regional thing.
Maybe outside of Ohio.
Yeah.
Maybe would they have their own restaurants?
It seemed like one of them had a
Iron Skillet,
a Bojangles chicken place.
Yeah, Bojangles, man, you can't go wrong Bojangles.
Well, I didn't say it was bad. It just said it wasn't Denny's.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
we have a lot of Pilots in Ohio. I've just never seen a Denny's.
Some of them have like Iron Skillets in there.
Yeah, you're right. I thought that was Travel America.
You know what? I'm not a travel center expert.
I kind of am. I love to stop at truck stops or travel centers.
Pretend like you're a trucker?
No, you can just get anything you want.
You just like to go in the showers.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. All
anyway,
right.
my chair
is in.
I got the new use chair. Thank you.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you.
I'm cutting it off. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. We will be back next week.
Will we?
We will.
I didn't know how our schedule was going to be.
Yeah, I don't want people to think we're skipping
okay.
again.
All right. We'll be back.
So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.